Say, for the sake of argument, you've got this friend. His name is, I don't know, Sean, and he's 25, single, and white. Sean likes sports, but maybe he's also got a nerdy side. He's got a lot of qualities that make him likable, but you also know that Sean hides his nerdiness just a little bit. To keep up appearances, find a girlfriend, normal stuff. You may not realize it, but Sean is a prime candidate for radicalization by the alt-right. But wait, we've just described a really normal person. There are thousands, maybe millions of Seans in the US alone. Sean is a nice guy. What is the secret ingredient that turns this into this? Let's talk about it. This video essay examines cruelty as a critical tool of the alt-right. Specifically, how does the alt-right use cruelty to control political power? You can get the snowflake liberal comments out of the way now. The fact it doesn't care about any of our feelings is that being mean goes a lot deeper than being mean, if you know how to do it right. Part 1. First contact. So, what is the alt-right? Well, firstly, most of the skeleton and style of this video comes from Bard observations, argumentation, and analysis by Ian Danskin, the video essayist behind Innuendo Studios and the alt-right Playbook series. Danskin describes the alt-right as a pack of loosely aligned groups and individuals who have existed for quite a while at the peripheries of American conservatism. We're not talking about the border control Republicans, people who are worried about fiscal responsibility, or your Uncle Dave who really likes guns. We're talking about these guys. It's also important to note that around 2013, the alt-right went online. The alt-right pipeline is simply a series of unfortunate events, checkpoints, and circumstances that may bring someone from any part of the political spectrum to the furthest right end of it. Right now, let's examine the mouth of the funnel. People have problems. And the alt-right presents itself as a solution to people's, mostly young white men's, problems. The manosphere, online gaming platforms, help groups, etc. are all spaces that solve people's need for community. But they also provide a space for people to talk about what ails them. If Sean is feeling lonely, he might play games with his friends online. If Sean feels like he's going to be poor forever, he might start listening to Finance Bro podcasts and maybe fall for a pyramid scheme along the way. If Sean feels like he can't get a girlfriend, he might do the healthy thing and start working on himself alongside other guys who feel the same. These communities are not necessarily inherently bad. Most of them are great, actually. Most. But the unfortunate truth is that where there are problems to be solved, there will be bad solutions ready to lead Sean astray. The solution that might turn Sean into a Nazi or a Ku Klux Klaner in 5 years is cruelty. Cruelty is used to solve problems in many ways. Say Sean gets desperate. He feels like no matter how hard he works, no matter how many push-ups he does, no matter how many games he plays, he'll never be happy. If there happens to be enough of the alt-right and its influence in Sean's surroundings, he might start to hear some arguments many of us have grown familiar with. You can't get a girlfriend because feminism has displaced women from their proper place in society. You can't get a job because immigrants are taking them. And even if you do have kids, the left is going to turn them gay and trans. And by the way, those are really bad things. In short, you can't be happy because of other people taking it from you. Cruelty allows Sean to direct his feelings into something other than his own sadness and fear. It lets him get angry instead. And as the most authoritative figure on political psychology, Yoda, tells us, anger leads to hate. The thing about hate, though, is that it cuts people off, and that's kind of the point. Not only does the alt-right try to convince Sean that marginalized groups are out to get him, they convince those people that Sean is doing the same. Every time Sean says something hateful, he pushes people away, and the alt-right at this point can sit back. Sean and all the political capital that accompanies him will fall right into their lap. It's also important to recognize that during this time, Sean is being distracted from the real causes of his problems, so he'll never find the solution. Rational people know that women having more agency is not why Sean is lonely, and immigrants aren't actually taking Sean's jobs. The hard truth is that turning to cruelty is easier than turning to reason, especially when that reasoning might mean Sean faces some hard truths about himself. Was Gamergate, wow, deep cut, really about ethics and games journalism? Or was there deep-seated misogyny in video game communities? The right answer is usually the harder one. Part 2. Toxic intoxication. If any of you are into psychology, or maybe you have a therapist, you might recognize many parallels between the alt-right and abusive relationships. The most important comparison, being drawn in by positivity. The alt-right isn't in self-betterment communities just as coincidence. The fact that they provide solutions that make people like Sean feel better when they come to the table is why they're there. The problem is that they can't actually fix Sean's problems because hatred won't fix the economy or get Sean a girlfriend. An abusive boyfriend can't give you real love, but can make you think you're just about to stumble into it at any moment. It almost makes you forget about the hurt and pain that's inherent to a relationship defined by cruelty, and in psychology this is known as disorganized attachment. Also, the use of community is not a mistake. People crave belongingness. and if Sean finds that in the alt-right, he might do anything to belong. I think edgy jokes are the best way to illustrate this sinking deeper into a toxic dynamic while not even realizing it. Remember, Sean started off as a normal guy. But if his community start getting more accustomed to making race jokes or saying slurs because it's funny, Sean will choose sticking with his people over taking the moral high ground 9 times out of 10. Because taking a stand against a joke seems silly or even pretentious. No one is actually racist, no one is actually getting hurt. But especially because the alt-right is primarily online, language is far more important than many realize. Maybe the jokes are accompanied by hypothetical scenarios, maybe an article or two, maybe they become arguments. It can take months, but eventually bigotry is commonplace. The rhetoric doesn't need to be taken seriously in order to become normalized. And once it's normalized, well, the people that were never really joking start to grow in number. Opinions sucked deep in the subconscious begin to rise to the surface. If Sean officially embraces bigotry, he's already been acting like a bigot for months. To be clear, this is not to say that making edgy jokes turns you into a terrorist. The point is that the road to normalizing cruelty is downhill, and for every person thinking, I'm a good person, I can hit the brakes, there are many more who are sliding. Part 3. Weaponizing cruelty. This whole time we've been talking about Sean, not movements. Sean by himself has no political power. But if you make enough echo chambers with enough Seans, that's where power comes from. The members don't even need to know they're members. They just need to think the right things. What they say and how they're seen is what's most important. That's why power comes from language and visibility. The alt-right mainstreams where it inserts itself into regular discourse by getting enough people to see and hear Sean. Maybe that's because Jubilee puts Sean on an episode of Middle Ground, or God forbid, Surrounded. He ridicules some woke snowflakes and gets a few million clicks. Maybe it's because he's getting interviewed on Fox News, where the host agrees with Sean on who the enemy is, but not about how to talk about them. Or maybe Sean got violent. Have you ever heard of the adage, there's no such thing as bad press? Regardless of how the majority audience feels when they see Sean burning crosses, there's always the possibility that someone sees that and realizes there are more racists out there. Cruelty is more normal than I thought. For some, the pipeline begins here. What I've described above is a slow process with many setbacks. However, when groups like the alt-right, even as decentralized as they are, gain figureheads, the reach of cruelty as a tool becomes much wider. If a politician were to stop catering to the other side of the aisle in the middle to focus on the extreme, start using their language and adopting their positions, we might call that political suicide. Or we might call it history. When groups get mainstream to this extent, cruelty isn't just a tool for building a movement, it becomes the modus operandi. Suddenly, euphemisms like these are no longer needed. The people that supported border security are a mix of many different people, some of whom are genuinely concerned about national security, and some who hate Mexicans. But if border security is turned into Mexico is sending rapists and thieves by the head of the movement, how many people who supported the first thing are going to stop supporting the idea as a whole? How many people like Sean are going to adapt with the community? How many people will become so hateful of the scapegoat that they'll let the leaders who stand against it start to accumulate just a little more power? It's important to recognize that this discussion about cruelty is not just about protecting people's feelings. It's not just about preventing more political power from slipping into the extremes. When people are sucked into a funnel that normalizes cruelty, transforms fear and anger into hate, and offers a target for those feelings, things become violent against those targets. The scope of this violence can range from Anita Sarkeesian, who has had to relocate many times to avoid death threats all because she wrote about misogyny in gaming communities, to mass shootings. There is a lot at stake. So what's the point? The main thing I want people to take away from this is that cruelty is a tool. It rips people like Sean away from us, it turns Seans into terrorists, and it gets people killed. All the while, the groups that operate off of cruelty normalize themselves, shift the political landscape, and expand their reach. So, what can we do? That discussion is much bigger than this one, but I think this is a good place to start. Cruelty is a tool, so don't tolerate it.